Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
He's in the building!
Drink the moment. Drink it.
I said empty your mind.
Coquettish and coy. Ow. Ow.
What?
And there's people that are dying.
The wickedly talented.
More than great. It was historic.
Crack is
Wow.
Oh, good for you.
I have to apologize.
One of the hottest.
Hey hotties, and welcome to The Reheat, a podcast that re-examines the hottest celebrity news and scandals of yesteryear and asks, how would we react to the same events if they transpired today? I'm your co-host, Sadaf and Sarah, an arts and culture journalist who has a possibly very unhealthy obsession with gossip, celebrity, and all else.
And I'm Sarah Sahagian, a journalist and educator who's also a self-identified historian of celebrity culture. And this week, we are doing things a little differently. It's a mini-sode of sorts about all the still lukewarm gossip from the last week or two. These aren't stories that you have to put in the microwave, but Carmi from The Bear would definitely say they were too cold to feed the patrons of The Bear. So that is a reference to the popular FX show for all who watch it. So Sadaf, I have been waiting days to ask you, how devastated are you that J.Lo officially filed for divorce on her second wedding anniversary with Ben Affleck?
I am struggling so hard. First of all, I can't even tell you how many friends sent me the news and they were like, are you okay? We are sending you thoughts and prayers. And frankly, thoughts and prayers are not enough. I'm smiling, but I actually am genuinely upset because I know this sounds ludicrous, but I think you'll understand when I say this. They were kind of that first Hollywood romance that I really took notice of way back when in the 00s when they first kicked off. And I always saw them as the celebrity picture of true love. So when they got together, oh my God, it was like my birthday, it was Christmas, it was everything. And I was so certain that they would stick it out this time. Like this was going to be it. This would work. And the fact that it hasn't and it lasted so briefly, I cannot accept it. I cannot accept it. And I feel like I have to jump off the J.Lo bandwagon. I just simply cannot support that woman anymore. I'm struggling. I can't defend it anymore. I'm tired.
Why can't you defend J.Lo specifically? Can you still defend Ben?
Great question. Grilling me. Okay. Well, I feel like with J.Lo, we've seen her go through romance after romance, and each time I feel this is the one, we're gonna do this. Like with A-Rod, I was so down for it.
Yeah,
with,
me too.
You know, like with the father of her children, with Mark, I was so like, let's do this. They were together also a couple times, and it just never seems to go. This is a woman who likes to get married in every rom-com she's in, loves a rom-com. I love her rom-coms. I will continue to watch them all, but I just feel like, I don't know, I'm side-eyeing it all a little bit. And maybe I am an ass because I still love Ben and I fully support him. And we know that man has been through it too in the past.
I'm really out on Ben. I mean, here's the thing about Ben. I didn't like how after his divorce from Jennifer Garner, he got the Phoenix tattoo and suggested that she was the issue in their marriage. And then that poor saintly woman had to drive him to rehab because she forgives everything and is still there for the father of her children. Like, I feel like she has to do a ton of emotional labor for this man that she's not married to anymore.
I know.
And it really just shows you with women, be careful who you marry, because if he is an emotional leech like Ben Affleck, if you have kids with him, you will never be able to wash your hands of him, because obviously you want the father of your children to be healthy and okay because you love your kids. And this woman just keeps having to come back and clean up his messes. Like, she's been with him. They took Violet together to Yale. I mean, good for Violet. Congratulations, Violet. You got into Yale. Yeah, their daughter, Violet. That's great. I don't like the way Ben uses Jen when it's convenient for her stability and emotional labor, but then makes snide comments about her in the press. Like, I don't like that.
Yeah, I think you're right on there. I always have defended him. Listen, I love the occasional problematic man. I can't really defend myself. This is, by this time, this is how I am. I also love me some Tom Cruise. It is what it is. But with Ben Affleck, I do agree with you. I always say, how the hell do we know that he's using her? I mean, she's the one who also keeps coming back to be there for him. I think you're right, though. You tend to feel a responsibility when that's the father of your children. And
Yeah.
he definitely has made some not so great comments about her in the past. I will also say, to her credit, my dad, who is not like a celebrity culture person, the other day was talking to me about this, and he was like, who is that other Jennifer he was with before? She's a really good woman. Why did he let her go? She's really there for him. And I was like, yes.
She is really there for him.
Yes.
And the thing, I never liked how he would talk about her during their marriage, how, like, you know, he would let her take over bath time when he was, you know, worried about work and stressed, right? Like, his career mattered more. And it was kind of like, it was subtext, but it was there. He really was trying to make her the traditional wife and mother. And even though she had a career and was super famous as well, but she seemed to take on that role and be okay with it, even though it was effacing her. And so, yeah, actually, that was probably the perfect woman for him. Like, he just could get her to do all the things he didn't want to, and then he still had a beautiful family, and she rescues him whenever he's in trouble. Like, he is so lucky.
He's
that
so
he found
lucky.
her.
He's so lucky. I think you're right. I think if I drop my defensive hat, I think maybe both Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez are people who are maybe not good at love. Maybe they're not good at relationships. Maybe it's just that they just have not found their people yet. It's really whatever it could be for anybody who's single out there and has struggled. And I know what that's like, and maybe that's just what it is for them. They keep hitting against this wall, but I sense there's more to it, and I sense that something came up, but I don't know. I will say one thing. I did see this news just yesterday, but each of their children were still hanging out together, which I thought was really lovely and sweet, and without the parents. And that, to me, says A, they've been raised well, and B, they were raised and got to spend time in a really comforting household where they all got to be together and friendly. And that's really beautiful. And I really hope that these two, when they do eventually address this breakup, they're solid about it. They're good about it. They're good about each other. I don't want to hear any shitty comments going either way. Please, for the love of God, let me keep you on some pedestal.
Yeah, I mean, it's embarrassing. Let's just face it. Like, it's embarrassing if you're going to get back together with a former fiance from your youth, and it only lasts 2 years when you get married for real. That is embarrassing. Like, I'm not saying we're all human. We all make mistakes. But I hope that when they address it in, you know, a Vanity Fair article or something, that they do it with some levity and they're able to laugh at themselves, because it's ridiculous. Like, it's a joke. Like, if it wasn't going to work the first time, you have to be really sure it's going to work the second time and give it that old college try. But these are two people who, I'm going to put it out there, and I love J-Lo, but I don't think either of them is the person who tries hard in the relationship. I think they need to be with other people who try hard, because when you have two people who aren't emotional givers together, who kind of want to be the star of the relationship, because I think both of them have star energy in a relationship, not just in Hollywood, but, like, you know, the energy of being the more of the taker. And that's not, and you know what, we all know people like that, and you can still be a lovely person, and all of us have been like that in one relationship or another. But when you have two people who are like that, and you don't have anyone who's kind of the nurturer, who's happy to take that role, as soon as something gets hard, there's no one to sort of pick up the slack or provide support, and then it just implodes, right? I think it's very obvious at this point that Jennifer Garner provided that support to Ben Affleck. Probably Mark Antony provided that support to Jennifer Lopez.
Oh, for sure.
And they need to go and be with people who are interested in being caregivers, so that they can just focus on being, you know, the star of their relationships and stars in Hollywood.
We need to look up their signs. That is such a good point, Sarah. I love therapist Sarah. That was really spot on. The only thing that I will add is that when they had their first go around the OOs, and it was so much fun and beautiful and very 90s, and there's Omar. He also is not happy with this breakup. But you know, the both of them said that part of the reason it didn't end up working out for them is because the press and the media was so involved in their relationship. So cut to now, you'd think because they had established kids, they'd had families, they were in a better place to start again. But I think we talked about this in the past. They still very much had the press involved. In fact, it felt like they were provoking them, and they wanted the press to be involved this time around. We saw this with the way that they would obviously call paparazzi. I don't think these two need to do that, but I think there were a lot of times where we saw them making out or like arm in arm or doing whatever they were doing wherever they were, and it was clearly just a photo op. So that was always disappointing to me to see, and honestly an early red flag where I was like, oh god, you guys are not going to make it if you're actually wanting this time around. That's what broke you up.
Yeah. Well, and listen, all celebrities to a degree like attention, right? And I understand how the paparazzi, it's different from then getting attention at like a press junket. I get it, but it did seem like this time that they were really relishing the fact that tabloids were rejoicing in their reunion. I agree with you, and that's not a good sign, because you think, are you in love with each other? Or do you like being reminded of when you were young and, on the rise, right? Your youth, right? I think a lot of us like being reminded of our youth, which is why it's a trope in movies and often in real life that people like have affairs with lovers from an earlier time, right? Yeah. Right. And it's not because you want them back. It's because people want their previous selves back, right? So I think that maybe they were having a love affair with nostalgia and remembering their youths when they had less responsibility and were, as they say in Fleischman is in Trouble, all potential, right? The world was your oyster. You hadn't really established yourself yet. I mean, they were stars and they were successful, but they were different people. And I think that a lot of people fall prey to that. And then when that novelty wears off, you're stuck with this person that you're just not compatible with and you never were.
Yeah, and I feel like, God, what hell to, in one way I think it must be so fun and so flattering, and I'm sure they bought into the way that their fans and so much of the press was rooting for them and seeing them as this fairy tale love affair. But when it's over, as you said, wow, fucking embarrassing, man. I would not want that out there. No, and by the way, listeners, if you haven't caught this episode before, go back through your feed. You can catch an old episode where we recounted their entire history together from the very beginning. If you do want to relive it and get really sad and nostalgic with me, please join.
And I incorrectly predicted that it would last this time.
I did too. Anyway, this feels like a good time to take a break, so please go grab your Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee, a favorite of my good friend Ben Affleck's. We'll be right back.
And we are back. So, we need to talk about Chappell Roan. Sadaf, are you a Chappell Roan fan?
I am a massive Chappell Roan fan. I've only gotten on the bandwagon a couple months ago. I think probably with everybody else. I am extremely obsessed. I love her, and I love her album. She's amazing.
The highlight of my year was I discovered her about 3 weeks before she blew up. And then I got so much cool cred with all my mom friends for knowing who she was. And I remember the barista at my local coffee shop who is young and cool, and in front of me sometimes when I have my child in a stroller will make comments how moms aren't cool anymore. It's not to me. She just doesn't process that I'm there and a mother. She once told me not told me, but said when I was in the room that Beyonce wasn't cool anymore because she's a mom, which I'm sorry, there's no excuse for saying that. Beyonce is very cool.
Yes, she is.
But
and
anyway,
also moms don't lose their cool factor. Like, fuck you.
Exactly. You can be a cool mom. So this woman also once wished a happy Mother's Day to the woman who came in with a dog and was like, happy Mother's Day to a great dog, mom. And then I came in after with my actual child and she didn't wish me happy Mother's Day. And then her boss noticed that and just was freaking out, was trying to do damage control, was like, and happy Mother's Day to you too with your child.
Sarah, that's hilarious, and that says everything
really
to me. And this is also why I've been telling everyone now that I have my dog, please do not call me a dog mom. I am not a mom. We are simply soulmates. Thank you. Now,
but circling back to Chappell and how she relates to this story, I came into the same coffee shop and they were playing Chappell Roan, and I recognized it was one of the more obscure songs. And I said, is this Chappell Roan? And the barista, who doesn't seem to think moms are cool, said to me, yeah, no one knows who she is yet, or at least only some people. It's cool that you know. And so I felt very vindicated, and I don't expect her to stop judging moms, but this was a really big moment in my life. So I am grateful to Chappell Roan for getting me cool cred with my barista.
I am so happy for you. For the record, you are cool. Hello. And baristas
Thank
don't
you.
know what they're talking about. Please, for the love of God. Now, I know you have a lot of thoughts about her conflicted relationship with the people who've made her famous. This has been a big story this week. What do you think, Sarah?
Okay, so I'm of many minds. I'm just looking at my notes about this. Like, I have a lot to say. So she went on social media, on TikTok, and did a couple videos where she talked about how her fans' behavior is weird. She used the term weird, and she described things that did sound alarming. So her fans apparently know where her parents live, where her sister works. That's really upsetting. That is stalking behavior. She uses the term stalking, and I agree. I think that is stalking. She takes issue with people getting angry if she doesn't want to take a picture with them or to hug them. And you know what? In the era of COVID, why are you asking anyone you don't know for a hug? Really? Like, even if you're a fan of theirs, that I'm with that. That's really weird. And like, this is a really good way to spread illnesses. But there were some other things that she said that just to me felt out of touch with what celebrity is. She didn't really understand why people had a parasocial relationship about her and were talking about her on the internet and speculating about her life. She didn't understand why people would yell her name when they drove past. And like, honestly, if people would yell my name when they drove past me, that would give me so much energy. I'd feel so hyped. I'd be like, yeah, I'm gassed. Thank you. Okay. All right. Yeah. Now I've got a pep in my step when I go to the grocery store, right? Like maybe if I got that kind of attention, like, I don't know, 50 times a day, it would wear on me. But there's a debate going on. Some people feel like she's saying what needs to be said, that celebrities should stand up for themselves, and should give boundaries to their fans. But I think she went a little bit too far. I think she needs to respect that parasocial relationships are real and that they mean a lot to people, especially when you're a celebrity who grew a following on social media, has shared about your life, right? She has been frank about everything from dating to mental health to going to therapy, right? Like, this is somebody who has built a following in part by being forthcoming, explaining about the relationship issues that inspired various songs. And now when people feel like they know her because they've learned so much about her, she thinks that that's weird. But why would that be weird?
This is so interesting, and I don't disagree with you, and I love the way you're coming at this. I think you're so right on, but at the same time, I gotta say I'm on Chappell's side because I feel like she's very young, first of all, and I think she is a good example of one of those stars who became famous overnight, which doesn't happen actually that often, and it happened really quickly for her, and I think she got quite a bit of a fan following very, very quickly, and I think a lot of her fans, as you've said, have these relationships with her partly because she talks so much about her sexuality. That is such a key part of the album. It's a very intimate album. I think that's why I love it so much and why a lot of people do, and it makes you feel like you know her. And I mean, I feel like I know Ben Affleck. I feel like I know other people we often talk about. But do I want to go and run up and give him a hug? I mean, I want to do other things with him that are also inappropriate, but I wouldn't just go ahead and do them. But I think you're right. It's a lot to ask for a hug. And I think in 2024, conversations are changing around the way that fans should be, quote unquote, and the way we interact with the people that we're fans of. It is really weird to ask for a hug. The whole thing is weird. I would never want to be famous because I find that dynamic really unusual. And the fact that people... I mean, you know, fans of anybody are pretty intense. Fans of, like, I can only imagine what Taylor Swift's fans are like when she actually faces them in person, for instance, or anybody of that caliber. It must be quite strange, even if you enjoy the attention. And I think Chappell just hasn't gotten to a point yet where she can really process it. And I hope she gets some help with that. Maybe a little bit of media training too.
Yeah, well, okay. Here's the thing that really rankled me. And I think this is because it felt like she was specifically attacking people like us. She doesn't like how people speculate about who she is on the internet. And like, dude, that's just part of being a star. If people aren't talking about you, you're not famous. And that's also like basically what we do for a living. So I guess I took that personally. But the other thing that I took issue with was she compares herself to like a random woman. Would you do this to a random woman? I was like, no, because that random woman hasn't cultivated a parasocial relationship with people, right? She hasn't sought that platform. So I'm not saying that fans should feel entitled to hug celebrities, no, or even to get a picture with them. But if you see your favorite celebrity and you want to like shout out of a moving vehicle, I love you, Chappell. That's so innocuous.
Yeah, I think this is the big thing that has always gotten me too. Like, listen, if you were just doing this for the music, you could just be playing music in your garage and you didn't have to go get a record deal and go get endorsements and go play massive venues wherever you go. Be part of the agreement. Part of what you're wanting to sign on for is the fame, is the fans. And this is what's gonna come. People are people. Like, they are gonna want a fucking hug or a high five or whatever it is. And you got to figure out how you want to handle that. I think having boundaries is absolutely warranted, but it is going to happen. And you did sign up for it. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Do you think that there's going to be a serious backlash? Because she is the artist of the summer.
I don't think so.
She's had. No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
too.
I think she's too big right now, which is part of what the problem is for her, certainly. And I do totally get it. I don't think I'd be handling it well if I were her. I would be checking in somewhere to lie down. But I think she's just doing too well. And I think also not a lot of people are even aware that this happened and that she said all of this. You got to be pretty online to pick up on it. I think she's going to be just fine. I think she's going to sort it out. She'll be okay. We're rooting for you, Chappell. We love you.
Yeah, no, I want her to succeed. I love her music. What's your favorite Chappell Roan song?
I think probably Pink Pony Club right now.
Okay.
Yeah. But I hop between them a lot, but that's the one that I really love at the moment. What about you?
My favorite is Red Wine Supernova.
Oh, God, yes.
I don't know. It's so joyful. I really love that one. But she has lots of great songs. And that's another thing of note, right? Like a lot of artists today don't have, like, they just have one or two decent songs, and she has so many wonderful songs. She's clearly very talented, and if she doesn't like being famous, she could just become a Jack Antonoff style songwriter.
I'm so tired of Jack Antonoff. That's another song.
I mean, I am too, but what I'm saying is if you don't want to be like the face of the song, you can work with other people who want to be the face of the song. So that is an option for her if she really feels like this is impacting her mental health in the long term. I want her to stick with music, but I will be happy for her if she decides it's preferable to be a songwriter. That also could be a good outlet. Like, I won't judge her. I love her persona. I think she's a great performer, but I think she needs to think really carefully about whether she wants people to have a parasocial attachment to her, because if she can't get used to that, if she can't adjust, she's going to have a really hard time. Like, this isn't going to go away. This is part of being, especially a rock star, right? Yeah. Like, this is part of being a rock star.
Absolutely agree with you, Sarah. And welcome back to the reheat, Taylor's version. Yes, you heard that right. We've got some Swiftie business going on over here. Thanks to Rogers, we are giving away 2 tickets to see Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour, when she comes to Toronto. I know you're dying, and I know you're wondering, how do you enter? Well, each week we give you a different keyword. This week's keyword is style. Text style and your name to 925-555 to enter for your chance to win. Again, text style. That's STYLE and your name to 925-555 for your chance to win. It's that simple. Thanks to Rogers, the presenting sponsor of Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour. Standard data and message rates apply. See contest rules linked in the description of this episode for details. Now, I know you Swifties are all vibrating right now with joy, as you should be, but don't stress. There will be another keyword in next week's episode. That's right, the contest is 6 weeks long for up to 6 entries. So grab your friends, grab your iPhones, even your Androids, and get texting. Now, after our episode last week, there's still so much drama buzzing around It Ends With Us and the drama around Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. I feel pretty much the same. I did see the movie since we recorded. I actually kind of
Mhm.
liked it. I can't believe I'm saying that. I recommend it to
Okay.
everyone, but I do give you a little bit of a trigger warning. It's heavier than the advertising suggests, which is definitely where the problem lies. Sarah, what do you make of this feud?
I don't know. I mean, we don't have all the information. I'm not sure. Let's just say, I mean, it could be that Justin Baldoni did something completely inappropriate on set to Blake Lively. We so far haven't heard of anything he did that was inappropriate. Of all the information that's out there, it just sounds like he was fine. Like the only thing he did wrong was he cared about his back and wanted to know how much she weighed so he could know if he could safely lift her. That's not saying I'm shaming you for being postpartum. That's literally saying, like, can I avoid back problems? And as somebody who has had back injuries before, you like the whole movie would be shut down if the director and the star had a back injury. Like, you can't do anything. So for the sake of everyone, he needed to know. That's vital information. Anyway, I don't know. I think she hasn't behaved particularly well the entire time she's been famous, right? Like all those clips have resurfaced about her being really rude to that lovely Norwegian reporter for no reason, right? And when she and Colleen Hoover did those ads suggesting that people should get their gal pals and put on their florals and go see the movie, glossing over the fact that it was about domestic violence and not even mentioning that. It was weird that they treated it like it was 27 dresses. So I'm not crazy about how she's dealt with this. What about you?
I completely agree with you. I think you said it perfectly. I do think it's telling, though, that everybody, the cast, the author, has actually seemed to have put distance between themselves and Justin. But Blake definitely is also giving me some red flags. But let's put it this way. There's no evidence either way. We don't know. And I will just say, again, if you don't know what we're talking about, if you want to know more about this and you want to know more about Blake, please listen to last week's episode because we get really deep into it. Now, Sarah, I know you've got our last subject of the day.
Okay. So Oprah gave a speech at the DNC, and Oprah is my forever favorite. I was really hoping she would announce that she is doing a return to network daytime TV because I really don't want my daughter to grow up in a world where she can't watch Oprah after school. Alas, she did not.
I miss those 4 p.m. days after school.
Oh my God.
Good
Appointment
times.
TV.
Yeah.
Appointment TV. Here's what I found extremely odd. After she gave this rousing speech, which was just so motivational, people the next day were saying, okay, someone even bigger is showing up tonight. It'll be even bigger. I love Pink. I think Pink is a very talented performer. I appreciate her acrobatics. In what world is a Pink performance bigger than a speech by Oprah?
I completely agree with you. And I think one of the biggest subjects actually on the internet this year, because whenever anybody takes a look at who's charting in terms of the biggest tours of the year, who's bringing the most money, Pink is often at the top, just like Nickelback used to be. And just like Nickelback, I think a lot of people wonder, how the hell did Pink get that big and famous? I think it probably is due to her acrobatics. I think she's got a lot of middle-aged white fans, which is great. Get at it, Pink, but she's definitely not at that level for me. I'm keeping Oprah over Pink. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to tell you some of my favorite quotes from Oprah's speech. I think they really inspired me. So she says at one point, and I really loved this, she talks about how if in America, like, they have a can-do spirit and they help each other. I don't know if I believe that for all Americans, right? Just blanket, they help each other, but it's aspirational. This is what any community should be like. And she talks about how if a childless cat lady's house catches on fire, that they would still save her, and we'd try to get that cat out too. And that's the energy I want to take into my life. Like, always go the extra mile. Get the cat out too, right? I really liked that. She talked about how America is an ongoing project, which is a wonderful way to describe it. You know, I like that. We can always make things better. We're working together. That's collaborative. She talks about how, you know, the Republicans think that books are dangerous and assault weapons are safe. Love that turn of phrase. She's such an evocative speaker. And I just really think that as a culture, we undervalue oratory. And events like the DNC make speeches front and center. Well, I mean, I guess Pink's performance was front and center last night.
Sarah's rolling her eyes.
I love pink, but I like these events because as somebody who has spent her life training in public speaking and teaching other people how to do it as well, I just appreciate events where we get to see wonderful speakers give us these memorable addresses and then we get to dissect them. These are the quotes that our children will have on posters in their dorm rooms in university, right? Like these are the moments that are making history. These are going to be the sound bites in the history documentaries that kids watch 60 years from now in grade 10. So it was lovely to see. It's also like, I just love Oprah and I find her presence so wonderful and reassuring. And I know I'm not American, but now I'm
God
really,
bless. Thank you. So glad you're not. Sorry to Americans.
I know I'm not American, but I'm really rooting for that country and I'm really rooting for Harris. So, I mean, hopefully people listen to Oprah's message. Please always listen to Oprah, everybody.
Always listen to Oprah and justice for all cat ladies. And on that note, that is this week's episode. Thank you to our talented editor, Evan Wexler. And of course, thank you to all of you wonderful listeners. We hope you'll come back because we plan to cover a ton of more scandals. And the only way to do that is if we gossip about it together. And if you want to hear more from me, you can find me on Twitter at _Sadaf Hassan. And you can find this podcast wherever you listen to all your shows. Sarah, where can our listeners find you?
Listeners can find me on Twitter at Sarah Sahagian. And if you liked this podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe so other listeners can find us too. And if you'd like us to keep growing, we would love for you to support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thereheat, where we've got some goods in store for you. So thanks for listening, everyone.